So we've been discussing the mitzvah of Kiddush and specifically differences between the mitzvah of Kiddush Leil Pesach and the mitzvah of Kiddush all year round. Now we'll move on to the second item on the agenda, Urchatz. So it says Urchatz, and you wash your hands, and most Haggadahs have Notlin Yadayim, you wash your hands, Ve'ein Mevarchim al hanatila. You wash your hands, but you don't make a bracha on the Netilas Yadayim. So what is that all about? Why are we washing our hands without a bracha? I mean, either why wash our hands at all? If we are washing our hands, why don't we make a blessing? So there's a Gemara in Pesachim, Kuf Tez Vav, Aleph 115a. With the Gemara, we're familiar with the idea, the concept of washing our hands before bread. The Netilas Yadayim, we wash our hands before we eat bread. However, there's another halacha not as well known. A davar shetibolu b'mashke, something if you dip something in one of the liquid, one of the 7 liquid, so you have to wash your hands before you eat from it. So that was something that was prevalent during the time of the temple, when we kept different laws of tumah, v'tayr, all the different laws of purity. So there's a discussion in the Rishonim, what about Bizman Hazeh? What about during our time? Do the laws of washing for something dipped in liquids, the davar shetivol b'mashke, does that apply today? So the Rambam writes, even post Beis HaMikdash it applies, and even today, if you have a wet fruit, one is obligated to wash their hands. And the Balei Tosas say, no, that was only a halacha we were observing during the Beis HaMikdash, and now that we don't have any Tumah V'Tara, all the many halachas don't apply, so to this halacha of a davar shetivol b'mashke doesn't apply. And in fact, that's a machlokas rishonim, whether in general, nothing to do with the Seder, all year round you're having a wet fruit, grapes, apple, whatever it may be, do I have to wash my hands like I do for hamotzi before I eat the apple, before I eat the grapes? According to the Rambam, yes. And according to the Balei Tosas, no. And the Gra even says you even have to make a bracha. According to the Rambam, if you're obligated in washing, he even says you have to make a bracha. The minhag today, we don't make a bracha, since it's a machlokas Rambam versus Tosas. So I don't know, I mean, maybe there are some grunniks who make a bracha, but most posts can bring down, if you, assuming you're machmer for this, you would wash it you'd wash your hands without a bracha. That's my practice, a compromise between the Rambam and Tosfos. So that's all year round. So the Taz says, we see from the fact that we're washing our hands, we're about to have a wet vegetable, karpas, whatever you might use, parsley, cucumbers, whatever you use for karpas, you're going to dip the vegetable in the salt water. So the Taz says, the fact that we see urchatz, that you have to wash your hands before you eat the vegetable which is dipped in salt water, it shows really all year round you should be washing your hands before you eat the wet vegetable. And it's a criticism because most people do not wash their hands before having wet vegetables, and therefore the Taz says the kash is the teretz. The fact that we do it, we are Pesach, that proves the rule all year round. However, how do we explain, according to the Balei Tosas, and according to many who have a practice not to wash for wet fruit all year round, how do they explain the practice of urchatz at the Seder? What do we need? Maybe they didn't have urchatz. Maybe according to Tosas you wouldn't have urchatz in it. But according to us who have urchatz, and we do wash for a wet vegetable, on the Leil Pesach we have to explain why would Leil Pesach be different than all year round. So that's what some of the Achronim the later commentators deal with, we'll give a couple of reasons why perhaps we wash for Karpas Leil Pesach, even though we wouldn't do it all year round. So the Pri Megadim makes a suggestion, perhaps since we're having the Seder on Leil Pesach, on Yontiv, there's a general, a higher standard of Tahara, purity, and perhaps out the Yontiv, we're washing our hands. It's like Chayav Matar Atzmal Berega. We have different halachas of Yontiv of purity, so perhaps it's just an added hiddur that on Yontiv we wash our hands before fruit. And according to the Pri Megadim, it wouldn't just apply to the Leil Seder then, it should apply to any time you're having wet fruit on Yontiv you should wash. But that's what some suggest. It's only a din in the standard of purity on Yontiv. Others suggest the Lechem Chamudos, that it's like many other things we do the night of Pesach. You want to get the children to ask questions, to get them curious and start thinking about things. So we do many things on Pesach, Madashtana, the 4 questions, to get the kids involved. So there's another thing. Daddy, why are we washing our hands? We don't wash our hands all year round. And then you fill them in. So that's the Pri Megadim. That's the second possible answer. Our third possible answer is in a Tziv. It's a din in Zecher L'Mikdosh. It's a din, we do many things the night of Pesach. We want to bring back the good old days. V'mheira Yibana Beis HaMikdosh. And we got to go back to the days of the temple where they used to everyone used to wash their hands over a davar shetivul b'mashkeh. That's the Gemara. It's only a question whether it applies today. So we want to go back to the good old days. And therefore, we think about when we could bring the Karbanos again, the Karban Pesach, and therefore we wash our hands reminiscent of the days when we even washed on a davar shetivul b'mashkeh. And that's why we do, it's a L'shana haba b'Yushalayim. Next, why are we discussing next year? Of course, next year in Jerusalem. But why are we discussing at the Seder? It's all part of B'meir Yibana Beis HaMikdash. It's a Zeichel HaMikdash. And the Tziv writes that, and as well, that's why some point out we wear a kittel, all in white. Zeichel HaMikdash, the Kohanim eating the karbanos and bringing the karbanos. So that's a third possibility. The fourth possibility from the Darkei Moshe is there's a halacha of washing before tefillah, washing our hands before tefillah, and the Darkei Moshe wants to point out that the Agada is equated to tefillah, and therefore that's just like you wash your hands before tefillah, you wash your hands before the Agada, but nothing to do with the halacha of davar shetivul b'mashkeh. So those are some of the answers given according to the Rambam, according to the Taz. This is a raya all year round. It's the same halacha of the Netilas Yadayim all year round. You have to wash your hands tonight like you do all year round. According to others, it's not. You normally don't have to wash your hands. Why is tonight different? Either because of the higher standard of tahara, purity on Yontiv, to get the kids to ask questions, Zeichel HaMikdash, to do things to bring back, remember the good old days, or Haggadah represents Tefillah. So those are the 2 schools of thought. If we're washing our hands like the regular halacha of Netilas Yadayim all year round, or it's a special halacha, my nafkamina. What's the difference? The bottom line, no linyadav, you wash your hands without a bracha. What's the difference if I'm washing them based on the din of Netilas Yadayim, the classical halacha, or I'm washing my hands because of all the other reasons, Zeichel HaMikdash, or the other reasons like that? So one, perhaps, issue would be is that they're working with in the Tziv, with the Zeichel HaMikdash. So if we're washing our hands because of it's a din of Netilas Yadayim, so then we have to wash our hands with all the rules and all the chumras that we normally associate Netilas Yadayim with. The same way we wash it, we have to do everything the same. But if it's a din in Zeichel HaMikdash, some other reason, then we can discuss it, because as the Gemara tells us in Menachos, there's a whole machlokas regarding Sfiras HaOmer, Bisman Hazeh, whether it's the Raisa, the Rabbanan. But the Gemara says Abaye mani yome velo shruei zeichel hamikdash. I think it was Abaye. The Abaye counted days and not weeks because it's a zeichel hamikdash. And it's a whole discussion in the Gemara, but most learn, everyone agrees it's a zeichel hamikdash. The machlokas in the Gemara, whether you count days or weeks, is how much of a zeicher do you need? When you do something in zeichel hamikdash, you have to do it the same way it was done in the base originally, so then you'd have to count days and weeks? Or do I say no? It's nothing to do, since it's only a zeichel hamikdash, it's enough just to count days and not. So that's the question here. So if you assume, like in the tib, it's a zeichel hamikdash, so even if you're going to wash, you don't need the same rigorous standards of the laws in the Tilo Shadayim. And in fact, as well, it would, an nafkamina would be if you would even consider making a bracha. In the Haggadahs we say no in Yadayim Elo brachas. If it's out some other reason, Zeichel Mikdash, to get the kids to ask questions, you wouldn't even consider a bracha. But if it's out Natilas Yadayim, so then one could argue, so you should make it the same way you make a, the same way those who make a bracha all year round, like the Grush, and make a bracha tonight as well. Or also a very popular question is, who has to wash their hands? So if it's according to the Taz, if it's the din of Natilas Yadayim, then everyone at the Seder has to wash their hands because you can't eat wet fruit without washing your hands. But if it's a din of Zeichel Mikdash to get the kids to ask questions or whatever other reasons, so it'd be Kedai, it'd be enough just for the head of the household to wash their hands because that will get the point across as Zeichel Mikdash, that will get to ask the kids questions. As well, another nafkamina perhaps could be is, let's say, we know the halach is you dip the karpas in the salt water. But according to others, you could be yotzi karpas even with some other fruit juices, even some which aren't from the zayin mashkin, the 7 liquids which are hukshugu makabel tuma. So let's say you're dipping the karpas into something which you don't have to wash. It's not one of the 7 liquids. So would you have to? So if the issue is al Natilas Yadayim, so you wouldn't have to wash. But if it's to get the kids to ask questions on Zeichel Mikdash, then you would have to wash. Or perhaps let's say you use a utensil, a fork. So if it's a din in Natilas Yadayim, you wouldn't have to wash. But if it's a din to pique the kids' questions or other issues, then you would have to wash. And also, as well, the Biur Halacha brings down, as well, I think there's a discussion whether you have to wash your hands for bread if you eat less than a kazayas. And by karpas also, we'll get to other reasons why you have to eat less than a kazayas. If you have to eat less than a kazayas, so al Natilas Yadayim, if you wouldn't have to wash, assuming that's true that you wouldn't have to wash for bread, then certainly you wouldn't have to wash for less than a kazayas of karpas. But if it's a din in the Zeichel Mikdash, so then you would have to. So let's just summarize. We discussed Urchatz, no lin yada ve'ein b'bracha, you wash your hands, you don't have to make a bracha. And what's that all about? Because in the Bizman Beis HaMikdash Chaim, everyone made a bracha. Bizman Hazeh, Machokes, the Rambam and the Balei Tosas. Rambam says the halacha still applies, the Balei Tosas say no. So, different minhagim today. Some wash their hands without a bracha, that's a compromise shita. So the Taz says the biggest proof that the halacha is that way is Shulchan Aruch. The way we do is going according, I think the Shulchan Aruch says that you wash your hands without a bracha. He's saying tonight's the raya to that halacha, that you should wash your hands without a bracha. And so the question is, according to the opinions who say you don't have to wash bisman hazeh, so why do we have Urchatz in the Haggadah? So they come up with different answers from, it's only because of Yantiv, that's a higher level of purity, or to get the Lechem Chamudos, to pique the curiosity of the kids, for the Tziv, Zeichel Mikdash, or the Darkei Moshe, that the Haggadah represents Tefillah. He said, my nafkamina, I have to wash my hands anyway. So obviously if it's a din of Tisha, then all the general halachas of Netilas Yadayim are going to apply. But if it's another din of Zeichel or Mikdash or something else, so then perhaps you wouldn't have to wash the same way. It wouldn't have all the rigorous halachas. The question is also, could you entertain making a bracha? If you're washing out the Netilas Yadayim, you could discuss making a bracha. If you're doing it out Zeichel or Mikdash or pique the kids' curiosity, then you wouldn't have to make a bracha. Who has to wash their hands? And similarly, who wears the kittel? It's also getting into if the different minhagim. If one person wears the kittel or everyone, if it's a din in that, so that's we'll come back to the kittel at a later date, and also whether you dip the karpas into something which isn't one of the 7 liquids, would you have to wash? Out the Netilas Yadayim, no. Other reasons, yes. If you use a fork out to the Netilas Yadayim, no. Other reasons, yes. Perhaps maybe less than a kazayis you wouldn't have to wash, but for other reasons you would have. Those are different two schools of thought on why we wash our hands the night of the Seder, and some interesting practical differences that come out from it. Urchatz, washing your hands. Most Haggadahs have no lin yadav believe bracha. Most Haggadahs have you wash your hands without saying Netilas Yadayim. So Rav Shachta always likes saying a joke from the Yeshivniks, or they used to say someone at the Haggadah got up and said Baruch Atah Hashem Chedam Melech Haolam, and he stopped. Because Haggadah says don't say Al Netilas Yadayim. It really means not to make any bracha, but they stopped after that. So either way, so it says no lin yadav, but you don't say Netilas Yadayim. So what's the pshat? Like either wash your hands and make a bracha, or don't wash your hands. What's this washing your hands without a bracha? So to understand this, we have to go back to a Gemara in Pesachim, that we're all familiar with washing on bread. That's something we do all the time. That we wash our hands, Netilas Yadayim, we make a bracha, and we eat the challah, we eat the matzah, we eat the bread. However, many aren't so familiar with another halacha of davar shetibou b'mashka, that something which is dipped in one of the certain, has to be one of the 7 liquids. When the certain liquids, like we have in the Haggadah, would be salt water. That let's say I'm having wet grapes. Let's say I want any fruits for that matter. You have an apple, so if anything wet, so the Gemara says bisman beis hamikdash kayam. You had to wash your hands. It's like you wash your hands before eating bread. You had to eat your hands before anything wet. It was mukshav makabel tuma. So what about, that was clear, bisman beis hamikdash kayim. What about bisman hazeh? Post-temple, does this law of washing hands still apply? So that's a major machlokas in the Rishonim and in the Achronim, the Rambam versus the Bali Tosfos. The Rambam Shita, I believe, is it still applies. I might be mixing them up, but I think it's the Rambam who says that it still applies. You have to wash your hands even post Beis HaMikdash. And the Bali Tosfos say no, today it no longer applies because the laws of Tumah V'Tara were not as careful today. So in fact, the Vilna Gaon clearly works with the Rambam, and he even goes that his shita was when you're having wet grapes or wet apples, you wash your hands with a bracha. He even says, Bizman Hazeh, he's with the Rambam, he says the same way you wash your hands before you have bread. If you're having wet grapes, you wash your hands, make the bracha, and then you eat. Then you do the Bori Priya Eitz. And in fact, so basically the 3 so Bizman Hazeh, there are basically 3 shitas. There's the Vilna Gaon on one extreme, wash your hands with a bracha. You have the Bali Tosfos and others you don't have to wash it all, Bizman Hazeh. Then you have a middle shita, which seems to be the psak of the Shulchan Aruch. You wash your hands without a bracha, and that is that's my minhag as well. That I try not to eat wet fruit. So either 2 options: you could dry it off, which is it depends. It isn't so easy to do. On an apple, it's pretty easy, but on grapes to go through and then get all the grapes. So it depends. It's just easier for me to wash my hands. So. I wash my hands without a bracha. Sometimes you're so used to washing your hands, I sometimes automatically stop making the bracha. But I usually catch myself, but then I guess I always have the Vilna Gaon to rely on, that he says to make the bracha. So the Shulchan Aruch brings down, since it's a machokes sveika dedina, so the Shulchan Aruch paskins, wash your hands without a bracha. We'll see, many don't do it at all today, we'll get into that, whether, what is the minig, but the straight psak of the Shulchan Aruch seems to be, you wash your hands without a bracha. So if that's the case, comes along the Taz and says, what? That's what we're doing here. The Taz says Urchatz is a criticism about those who don't. It shows this is the raya. We see why you're washing your hands before you're dipping the vegetable into the salt water, because it's a davar sh'tilo b'mashka. The same way you're washing tonight, we see Urchatz. It's in the Haggadah. In fact, I guess according to the Bali Tosas, I guess they wouldn't have Urchatz. But in our Haggadahs, we have Urchatz, where everyone agrees to wash your hands. So you're washing your hands, so that shows, the Taz says, that you should be doing this all year round. And in fact, that seems the way the Shulchan Aruch goes. You wash your hands without a bracha. That's the way the Taz is the Raya. Taz is working with the Rambam, that there's a chiyuv in the Tilo Shadayim all year round. Okay, so Safek brachas, you don't make the bracha, but it's a din of the Tilo Shadayim, you have to wash your hands. That's the Taz. You have a question?
Yeah, can't you say, but aren't we doing it specifically on Pesach to show that it's different from the rest of the
year? Right, so I'll get to the other school of thought. Right. So the Taz is, to the Taz, to the fact we do it tonight, that's a raya, it's true all year round. However, there are many who say no, don't do it all year round, and for this school, so we'll call it the Bali Tosas camp, since it's his shita, and many achronim after, for those who don't wash their hands all year round for wet vegetables, so why, Bishlam, according to the Taz, the Rambam, we're washing our hands the same way, so it seems there's no question to ask, it's the same halacha, wash your hands without a bracha, but according to the Bali Tosas, why is tonight washing? I don't wash my hands all year round on it. Why am I doing it now? So there are a couple of answers given the Achronim. Why is tonight different? So some Achronim say it's part of the general halacha. It's on Yantif, and there's a general halacha. We take on a higher level of purity on Yantiv than we do on a normal day the whole year. So one of the special things we do, we wash our hands. According to this, then I'm just saying then according to that, then it shouldn't just be limited to the Seder. Anytime on Shabbos, Yantiv, whatever you have wet fruit, you should be wet. But basically he's talking about the Seder, but that's what some Achronim say. Yantiv demands, people go to the mikveh before Yantiv, chayivan with taharas atzmo berego, so there is some level of having a higher level of tahara. Others say, nothing to do with that. It's a general issue, what do we do on the night of Pesach? It's all about the kids. We want to get the kids involved, the manishtana, we hide the afikomen, we play all these games. So it's all about to pique the kids' interest, and we want to do something different. Daddy, what's going on here? All year round we wash our hands, and now we go to make hamotzi. Now we're washing our hands, and you get the kids. It's part of. It's not a different tefillah. You don't have to wash your hands all year round. It's a special halacha Leo Pesach to get the kids interested. Others want to say it's a din in tefillah that the Rambam writes. Before you daven, we all know you wake up in the morning, you have to wash. The Rambam sheet is, we don't necessarily pass them like this, but anyhow, that you have to actually wash your hands. As a din, before you daven, you have to wash your hands. So too, the Haggadah is like a din of tefillah, and that's why you have to wash. So these are three answers, all saying, well, you don't have to wash all year round. We're trying to give reasons why the night of Pesach is special. And the fourth answer I was saving is, the Netziv says as follows. So now you're beginning to understand what I was telling you over the phone. So the Netziv says, you know why we do it tonight? Because it's a zeichel l'mikdash. That we do many things the night of Pesach. We want to bring back the good old days. B'mheira yibana beis hamikdash. So in the temple they're very strict, as we said. Everyone agrees during time in the temple you wash your hands on a wet fruit. And we do many things the night of Pesach, Zeichel HaMikdash, and the Tziv says. We do, we say, well, he says this is we're doing Zeichel HaMikdash, so dipping the water. How come I didn't pick up that I was able to like decline? But either I'm not picking up, it will mess me over. Okay, so either way, but it's the same bag. So the Tziv writes, it's Zeichel HaMikdash what? So we have the dipping in the soil water, and then we have, what do we say on the Peder say tonight? L'shana haba b'Yerushalayim. So it's great, of course, next year in Jerusalem. But why do we bring it up now? Again, it's all part of B'Hira Yivana Beis HaMikdash. In fact, in the Tziv writes, others write, also, what's the nature of wearing a kittel? There's a whole discussion, why do we wear a kittel at the Seder? So there's different schools of thought as well. It is, do I do like, I think the Vilna Gaon writes, it's a Zeichel HaMikdash because we like the Kohanim who used to wear the white when they ate the karbanos, so we wear white the night of Pesach. You know, others give different reasons. I think the Taz writes that because since we're bringing out all the beautiful china and and we want to get caught up in the simcha, so it's kind of like a zecher, like, you know, kids or something you wear, Yatzke Yom HaMisa, you know, just tone down, make sure you don't go overboard. So, but working with the Vilna Gaon, it's another thing we do as Zeichel HaMikdash. That's what the Tziv Shita is, that we're doing it Zeichel HaMikdash. So whichever school of thought you want. So we have the Taz Shita working with the Rambam. We're washing our hands the night of Seder. It's a din of Natil Shadayim. It's a din of all year. There's no difference whatsoever tonight and all year round. All year round we have to wash our hands on wet fruit. Tonight's no different. And the other school of thought is all year round we don't have to wash our hands, like Tosfos. So why are we washing tonight? They all come up with special reasons, either, as we said, because it's a din of tefillah, washing before tefillah, Zeichel HaMikdash, or we said because to pique the kids' interest, or on Yontiv it's a level of purity. So my nafkamina, what's the practical difference? Either way, I'm washing my hands before I eat I'm washing my hands before I dip in the karpas. What my nafkamina, whether I work with the din of like the Taz and Rambam, I work within the Tziv or the other ones. So before I give the actual nafkamina, obviously the route to take was obviously if it's something that has to do with the halachas of Netilas Yadayim, then it's going to affect the Taz's opinion. Well, according to others, there's nothing to do with Netilas Yadayim, so we'll give some differences. So number one I like throwing out is who has to wash their hands. They're different minhagim. I think back in the day when I was growing up, the common practice was the head of the household only washed. That's what I remember. But the time I was in yeshiva, I'm kidding me. That's totally wrong. Everyone has, you know. Now I'll give both shitas. Now that they know, but everyone knows. Everyone has to wash their hands. So obviously the question is who washes. This depends on this issue. According to the Taz, that we're washing our hands, it's a din of Netilas Yadayim. So you're right, everyone has to wash. If I'm eating wet fruit, I have to wash my hands. But according to all the other school of thought, then whether it's a Zeichel HaMikdash, get the kids to ask questions, it's enough that one person, at least if the head of the household doesn't, and that's the same issue also regarding kittel. There are different minhagim, whether one person wears a kittel or everyone wears kittel. Again, if it's to get the kids to ask questions, so then it's enough that one person could sacrifice and wear the kittel. If it's a Zeichel HaMikdash or other reasons, so then if you're doing it, for other reasons, maybe everyone. So it's the same type of thing here. So this is it was funny because last year I was running the Seder at the hotel last year, and right before this, I was really expecting. I wasn't sure. I didn't know the crowd really, I wasn't going to be shocked if I was the only one to go wash. In fact, I made an announcement before I said, now we're doing Urchatz. There are different customs. There's some customs that everybody washes, and there are other customs that just, the head of the house is. So I'll have you all in mind. If that's because, I figured that no one would get up. To my, I wouldn't say dismay. 100 people got up, and it took about 45 minutes to do Urchatz. So
everybody agrees with the Taz.
So I don't know if they took it to me like, either, and then the people complaining, the kid, the word is upset at me, but what I'm saying is, so I told them make sure they have a couple of washing stations next to be prepared for it because it took so long. But it was just interesting that so many people that they actually got up and watched it. And I told them they didn't, I didn't say they did or don't. I just said they're different, and that's what it comes down to. This issue, whether one person wanted another, let's say you use a fork to take the cucumbers or whatever you use, parsley. So if it's a din of, a zeichel, a mikdash, or peek the kids, what's the difference? You're gonna you have to do it anyway because you have to wash your hands because the whole point is to get the kids to ask questions or we're doing things. But if it's a din of the Tue Jun, then maybe I wouldn't. Then I'm not touching it, and then maybe I wouldn't have to wash my hands. So then again, it could be a kul and a chumrah, or the opposite. Or another case is, let's say the halacha is according to some poskim, you're allowed to use fruit juice. Let's say, obviously everyone uses salt water, but you don't have. You're allowed to use certain juices which are in there 7 mashkin, that 7 type of liquids that this halacha applies to. So let's say I use one of those that aren't from the 7. So again, if it's a din of the Tue Jun, then I wouldn't have to wash because there's no halacha. I'm just making it up. If I dip the cucumber in this fruit juice, then I don't have to. But if it's a din in zeichel or mikdash, so again, so therefore those would be different nafkaminas in terms of whether it's a din in the Tue Jun. And also another one is based on the Netziv that do I have to wash? Do the same exact halachas apply? Because let's say if I'm doing something zeichel or mikdash, so let's say there are certain halachas that they're eating less than a kazayis of bread, so maybe you wouldn't have to wash your hands. A different halachas. So let's say the issue we'll get into it more by Sfiras HaOmer, but there's this machlokas in the Gemara whether you count days or weeks. So Ameim or Abaye. So basically, this opinion the Gemara says we count. I only count days and not weeks. So it's zeichel or mikdash. So basically, the way most we showed in learn is everyone agrees counting Sfira today is zeichel or mikdash. The machlokas in the Gemara is how much of a zeichel do you need? So one said since it's zeichel or mikdash, I only have to count days and not weeks. So according to the Netziv, it's a zeichel or mikdash, so then you wouldn't necessarily have to follow, all the strict dinei hilchos Tue Jun. I'm saying whatever they might be. But according to the Taz, whatever the halacha Yishdayim apply, you'd have to keep. If not, so according to the Netziv, it's a zeichel or mikdash, you wouldn't necessarily have to have all the chumras, or depending, a chumrah or kula. So that's Urchatz. So that's the halacha that if someone who is, so that's the next step after Kiddush. So you do Urchatz, you wash your hands without a bracha. That's what we do. It's the 2 schools that thought the machlokas Rambam and Tosfos whether Bisman Hazeh the halachas apply. So the Taz says it's a din in the Tue Jun and you do it all year round, and therefore it's no different. Others who don't do it all year round, why do it tonight? So either because of the different reasons we gave, zeichel mikdash, get the kids to ask questions, the levels of purity, tefillah, etc. We say, my nafkamina, what's the difference? Whether I do it because of the din of the Tue Jun or because of either way I'm doing it, so there are nafkaminas. Does one person do it, or does everyone have to do it? If I use a fork, if I use part of the things that aren't the zayim mashkin. Another difference is that wouldn't apply to the Tue Jun, so we could work through different differences.